All right. My name is Tom Graham, and welcome to Being Heard. And I am committed to every voice being heard, including my own. I'm here with Chris Delaney, and welcome, Chris.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I'm super excited to be here with you, Tom.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you here. And you want to just tell us and our listeners, my listeners, our listeners, what you're up to and just a little bit about yourself. And first, let me just, yeah, we'll just start with that. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my name is Chris Delaney. I am a social audio creator, co-founder of the Intentional Media Group with my partner Megan LaRoque, where we focus on helping global thought leaders really bring their ideas, whether it's ancient wisdom or something into the modern age through technology, through media, marketing, branding. I also do a lot of business coaching and advising. And then beyond that, I'm a guy just kind of seeking better questions for myself, kind of using my life experience to learn more about how I can really bridge the gap between spirituality and our regular day-to-day existence. I have a podcast called The Connection Point that recently launched, which is all about putting human connection at the center of our life, business, and brand. And that's really my life. That's what I'm all about. So it's all about finding connection between all things. And I think we can do that if we really pay attention.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great. I'm so glad. I mean, it's like, this is like, what do they got? I don't want to be cheesy, but it's like manna from heaven, because it's like, I didn't realize how connected, how close our spaces are.
Yeah. It's a
And
great serendipity to happen. I mean, to think the Clubhouse brought us together and then thinking about ideas that we had in kind of similar places, I think it's amazing.
yeah, for
It's really
sure.
cool.
So just a quick rundown on my 7 P's. So my 7 P's, through my life experiences, I figured out that passion, perseverance, perspective, priorities, purpose, patience, and prayer really are the things like that. If they're out of whack, they don't go well. So like if one's missing, it's like a tire, it's just flat tire, kind of pulls you to the side of the road into the ditch.
Yeah.
If two of them are missing, goes funk, 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 funk. And it's like it doesn't go around. And then if three or two more than that, it's like, no, this doesn't work. Stop. We gotta reset.
Mm.
So I've got questions, and you love questions, and these are
Love
deep
questions.
questions.
I love it.
Yeah.
Deeper the better. Let's dive some rabbit holes.
Okay. So the first one's about passion, and it's, how do you take actions to increase your passion?
Hmm. So the way I would answer that is knowing myself well. I study and dive into things like human design, which if people haven't heard of that before, it's really a framework that allows us to understand our psychological, mental, and energetic components of what makes us us. And what I found to be true is that actually passion is what drives my action, not the other way around. And so I learned that because of the fact that I'm so connected to what we call sacral energy, it's the energy of creativity, and of life force. It really is connected to our sexual energy and everything else. That I only take action on things that make me feel a passion. And when I feel a passion, the best way I could describe it, as a friend of mine said, it's the feeling of being alive. And I try to operate only in those spaces. So I've learned to kind of pay attention to that. And so I take action on something that is like legitimately a hell yes, because I can't be a 50-50. And what I found is that the more I operate in that space and I take the action when I feel that after going through it, I tend to get a great exchange in return on my time and energy, versus when I'm kind of iffy on something over time, I've looked back and said, man, that just wasn't worth it. So I think it's kind of self-fulfilling. So the moment I feel that instinct, I act on it, more comes my way because of what I put into it. And it just continues to feed. And things like dance and stuff like that are great too, right? You salsa dance, you're in that relationship with somebody, like those things can be passionate. And I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah. So if I reworded it just slightly, what I'm hearing is like, you use the creativity, you listen for that tingling in your loins,
Yeah. It's
right?
it really is, right? It's the yeah, it's the way I would describe it is visceral, right?
Yeah.
A visceral feeling of like it's pulling me towards it versus me pushing.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, I used to push a ton. I was very willful. I was very much just get things done, make it happen. And I
A
was burnt
bulldozer.
out. bulldozer. Like to every hammer is a nail, right? So
Yep.
I was looking for nails. And when I stopped doing that, I started getting more into my creativity. Music is a big driver in my life. It sets the tone, the mood. I just found that more of it started showing up in my life. So I'm thankful that I found human design and that it keeps me moving in that direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your answer on that one because it actually resonates really close to me. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And the next one is perseverance.
Mm.
What is worth so much that you would push through anything to have?
So the two greatest values in my life, obviously at the core of my life is intentionality, and intentionality is all about being mindful and present with my energy and where I'm focusing it, because I think that that is my currency. It's the only thing that I really can understand how to control in some
Yeah.
ways. But my two greatest values are freedom and peace.
Yep.
So freedom for me is incredibly important. After leaving my corporate role and going through divorce in 2016 and kind of coming to an awakening in myself, I realized that freedom for me was the ability to truly understand myself and to put that first and
Yep.
to explore those things that made me passionate and to be able to express to the best of my ability at any time who I am in that moment and to use my language, my communication ability to do that. And I think peace for me is just simply, an open heart and a clear mind. And it doesn't mean I have to solve all my problems for the day and things can kind of be in flux. But when my head is the pillow, if I have that sense of coherence between head and heart, that's exactly where I want to be. So I don't let things lie or sleep.
Yeah.
I want to address them. And I'm sure later on we'll talk more about life experience, but um, I never really had a choice in that in my life. It was very from a young age. It was very much being pushed into and thrust into making big decisions. So I never had the luxury of kind of not knowing anything different, but I'm also thankful I haven't either.
Yeah. 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 Mm, wonderful. The next one is perspective.
Yeah,
And but shifting your perspective change your level of joy in the moment.
big time, majorly. I think I'm very honest with who I am. Like I come from a deeply conditioned background of negativity in my life, especially as a kid and going through a lot of survival and stuff like that. So when I wake up in the morning, my judgmental brain is on, especially if I'm in a period of time where I'm maybe not creating or doing something that I love. And I find myself judging. I'll go on Instagram or something. I'd be like, this sucks. That sucks. What are they doing? And then I have to catch myself and reel myself back in because I'm thinking from that consciousness of judgment.
Yeah.
And I have to like reel myself back in, just have a talk with myself and really think about the perspective. Like, what am I grateful for? Um, and really think about like, what am I actually creating? And it's a daily practice of having to get myself back to a higher level perspective, but also I'm not going to be Pollyanna, right? I'm not going to be, love and light all the time. It's like maybe there are times when I'm being asked to like really examine something hard
Yeah.
and to seek that out too. So I'm okay with sitting in that for a while. And maybe sometimes I just need to sit in my own shit, and be there with it so I can understand it, but not ignore it. So shifting perspective, in my opinion, is changing the vibration that we're seeing things from. And that might require me to do something that I love and take a step back from work or something and get a much wider lens on everything.
So just talking on about that, just you touched on something that you get into something that you love. Does that shift your does that
Big
that
time.
that
Yeah. I think, I was somebody who didn't have, this is a little deep, but I didn't really have a childhood, right? It was very serious. There's a lot of things that had to happen. So as I've gotten older, I just made a deal with myself. Like I would seek fun, play, joy, like also make some bad decisions, right? It's like that movie Wedding Crashers, like maybe get hopped up and make some bad decisions sometimes. So, I may go hang out with Tom and have a few drinks and know that I might get on the edge of a little bit of a good time, but we're going to enjoy it, because I chose to do that. So I'll never blame anything on an external circumstance or situation. I chose to have that fun and introduce that chaos into my life. And, you meet a beautiful woman, maybe introduce some chaos in your life or something. It's just, let it happen and kind of be with it.
yeah, kind of being in the moment's what I'm hearing.
One of my biggest life goals. I have two,
Yeah.
two interesting, and they're just small ones, but one is in 3 years to never have any kind of technology on me, no phone, watch, anything, so I can just focus on what's in front of me and who's in front of me because I can't multitask. It's like I struggle with it. The second thing is to have a partner that has to introduce me as wildly inappropriate to people that have never met me before.
I love it.
Yeah. So those are
I like it.
those are two small goals. People think they're like, I want to save the world and everything else. I'm like, but those are the two ones that are meaningful to me.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Little Steve Martin, one
Yeah. All,
wild and
all I ever
crazy
wanted
guy.
was a honest week. Was an honest week's pay for an honest day's work was always one of my favorite Steve Martin quotes.
Okay, an honest what?
All I ever wanted was an honest week's pay for an honest day's work.
I like it.
One of my favorites. That was going to be my tombstone.
Yeah,
But then I don't know. Can we be inappropriate on this podcast? I'm not sure.
I.
Okay.
Why not?
Perfect. So there was this other one where I have two buddies, Damien and Josh, that I met on Wisdom, and we decided to do a clubhouse room one night, and we're like, let's just be guys, go in this room, and just have a good time. Tell us some dick jokes or whatever. And then people were coming in, and it was getting so serious. And so I said, man, all we wanted to do was tell a couple dick jokes, and now we're trying to save the world. So that's going to be my next tombstone. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. Well, that sets us up for the next one. And the next one's priorities.
That's perfect, leading.
I know life is perfect. So, are your priorities setting you up for success and creating more joy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key in there for me is defining that idea of success. So I've always loved what Earl Nightingale said in The Strangest Secret, that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So I don't define success as like a certain goal or milestone, but rather I always ask myself the question: is this like a worthy journey? Am I going to become somebody in the process of pursuing this? And when I frame it that way, there could be some things that maybe I decide one day I want to learn a second language or something else. Like that to me is success for that day. And then again, if I go back to the core, which is, was I intentional? Did I find peace? And did I create freedom in my life? Those are the three things that will always be successful. And I would say, yeah, my priorities in business, are very aligned. My priorities in my life are very aligned, and my priorities in my health. I'm always seeking to understand more about my potential. And but the greatest lesson I think I'm learning right now is learning how to just completely let go of things I genuinely have no control over, which I think is a lifelong lesson.
Yeah. So let's just take it. This is me just, I'm going to pause here. This is about you being heard, not me. So the next one's purpose. You ready for this one?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Is your ladder up against the right wall?
I really think so. I I've heard you ask that question before, and I like it a lot because what is the right wall?
Yeah.
It always goes back to me of, does it fit back into like what I'm looking for: freedom, peace, and how does it feel?
Right.
Does it feel passionate for me too? I would say yes. I mean, it's taken me years to find the right partners. It's taken me years to distill like what we're doing now, and a lot of mistakes still yet to be made, and a lot of fun to be had in the process. So we'll find out. I think we're taking our best guess, and we're going to see what happens. Whether it's we're halfway up and we're like, oh shit, wrong wall. We'll figure it out.
So then there's two parts. I mean, just my follow on. I should have told you, but I've actually got these questions like laid out, written down on a notebook, and I'm asking the same questions to everybody.
Like
So, and that's my pattern. And there was two parts. One, the other is, what are you building with that? Because
oh.
that's the question.
A good friend of ours, Dr. Elizabeth Lindsay, asked this question. She said, what is courage? And I think it pertains to this, because what I think courage is, I'm gonna take it that further, another rabbit hole. I ask a question, when people say they want to change the world, the question is, do you want to change the world because you believe you have a better way of the world being run, or because you want the world to create less dissonance for you? And I think that I believe in my way of living, because you have to make a choice. And I think courage is answering that question the first way. I do believe that there is a better way than we've done. And I'm willing to take a gamble on that and to go all in on it. That is the worthy pursuit. And I think what we've decided to do in business with the media company, with the work that we're doing with the collective, with what we are doing, it feels very aligned with visions I've had, the experiences I've had, intuition I've had. And that is something that I will pursue with every fiber of my being, because it's the thing that what else matters, you know?
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The next one is patience. Are there areas where you need more patience?
If you asked me this question a year ago, 2 years ago, I would say, I struggle with patience. I think what has happened recently with me has been a lesson in patience. A lot of people came into my life this year in particular because of Clubhouse, and so many. And I think that there was, moments where there may have been expectations of me as a leader or as somebody perceived as a leader and whatnot. And I had to have a lot of patience, because when you choose to build something big, it
Mm-hmm.
takes time, and
Yeah.
you can't rush it. You can't distill a brand down in 2 days.
Right.
It's a long-term process. And so patience for me has been a big one. Um, and I think that I'm a very patient person, very, very
Mm-hmm.
patient.
Mm-hmm.
There are times though when I want my instant gratification, and I'll have that, right? If I choose to go eat something I like or whatever, that's where I can find that instant gratification. But I'm extremely patient, I think.
Yeah. The follow on to that one is, do you see any patterns where you might not, you know, and
Yeah,
it's not, there is no judgment, there's no right or wrong. It's
sure.
just a place to look.
It's a great question. And pressure is something I live with on a day-to-day basis. And that really is something that is like just a part of who I am. It's not something to be solved. It's not something to examine. I've worked with advisors and some other folks, and pressure is just, it's built into my life path. And I've
Mm,
learned to be with it and to utilize it very powerfully, and to not get upset with it. And to also allow myself to be able to turn it off sometimes. But that pressure pushes me a lot. I'm somebody who has, one of my good friends said to me, he's like, I wish you knew what it was like to be mediocre. And at first that really hit me, because there's no contrast there. And because generally we see in our minds what we want and we're willing to go get it. So that pressure is always there. And I used to get very upset about it, but now I've learned to use it as a huge gift.
so it's your superpower.
I would say so. I mean, I have a sense of urgency and a sense of relentlessness about me. I think that is, when I was younger,
Yeah.
was very aggressive.
Yeah.
When I was in the corporate world, extremely aggressive. Right? It was learning how to become a scalpel instead of a mallet, and learning how to use that intensity and to find the people who would also balance me out, like Megan, my partner. It's finding those right people in your life that are able to. I don't believe in working on your weaknesses. I believe in double down on your strengths, and finding people like Megan who are able to enhance and to exponentially increase your ability to be that scalpel.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. That's a great question.
Thank you. The last one is prayer. And
Mm.
this one's slanted. Okay. I'll just tell you right now. Um, do you use prayer? Like, are you proud? Are you grateful? What you desire and what you love about yourself? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so-
So prayer for me is one of those things that I have spent a tremendous amount of time with in my life. I grew up in a very religious household. I grew up going to Catholic school, Christian school. I actually almost got into theology in college. I almost became a Lasallian brother, vow of chastity, poverty, everything, and gone into teaching. And when my mom passed away, it was a very spiritual experience for me in that journey of like trying to understand. And I have a very close relationship, very proudly to say God. That's what I choose to call
Mhm.
that, which is. But my relationship is very personal, and my relationship is very connected. I mean, I have Michael the Archangel like literally on my body, and so
Okay.
it's the literal like depiction of him banishing, you know, Satan, Lucifer out of heaven. And that's part of a story. But,
Yep.
I don't engage in like a prayer practice, for instance. What I do is I get my heart right.
Yep.
And when I get my heart right, that's when I believe that I know I'm deeply connected to my sense of purpose, my direction, and I'm surrendered in my will. Um, and that's where that sense of peace comes from, is knowing that I've done the best I can as a human being and very still deeply connected to my heart. And I believe that staying connected to my heart, especially as a man as well, allows me to lead from a really beautiful place. And I'll get it wrong most times, but if I can continue to keep showing up that way, I believe that I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm doing some great things in my life.
Yeah. Wow. And what I heard, you didn't say it, but what I heard was like you're praying a couple hundred times a day,
Probably so, subconsciously
if
or
not
consciously.
more. Yeah. But it's just
Yeah.
that connection.
You know, I think that I've sent some very strong signals to the universe and to God my entire life, and prayed for moments like this in my life that I'm just so present to them now that I don't think that I need to pray, practice in that situation. But again, if I am choosing each day in moments where I could act against that open heartedness,
Yeah.
and I'm choosing the open heart and the vulnerability and the right actions, then that is a prayer, in my opinion.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Chris, that was actually very quick and 7 questions. And wow, thank you.
That's great, man. I love those 7 P's.
Yeah. What can I acknowledge you for? What would you like to be acknowledged for?
Hmm. You know, I think probably the biggest thing would be the level of effort I put into making sure that other people get heard, seen, understood to the core of who they are, not just who they present. And that's the thing that I do as much as I possibly can. And I don't look for a thank you or anything like that. But I think that's my contribution to the world. You know, I don't think it takes much. Somebody doesn't have to work with me in the media or anything like that for me to do that, to help them be acknowledged.
Anything else?
I think that's sufficient, man. I think
Okay.
that's really meaningful, right? Because that's, you know, you've been in a lot of spaces with us on Clubhouse and some other stuff too, and that's been a lot of work, a lot of consistent effort, and a lot of giving, you know. And so I think that's meaningful to me, to acknowledge that effort.
Yeah. So, Chris, I acknowledge you for the space that you hold, that container for people to show up and really speak what's there for them, and really being with, they can be anyway, and you accept them as they are, as they're not. And even if they can't get to it, they don't see it, you kind of jokingly, in a pleasant way, sometimes sarcastically, get them to realize and cough up what's really there for their authentic self. And it's I've seen it and I heard it, and I was like, you welcomed me into a clubhouse room where I wasn't feeling welcome, and I was just like stepping on stuff, and and you made me feel welcome. And I'm grateful for that. And I know that you hold space for many, many people, and what you're creating in the world is people relating to their authentic song, is how I see it. So thank you.
I received that, brother. That's very meaningful. Yeah, I still remember Toon Says the cat coming into the room.
What, you mean I can't change my name?
Still to this day, one of the best experiences I've ever had on Clubhouse. That was so much fun. That was such a genuine moment.
Oh no,
Did I lose my camera here?
something went. I'm gonna stop.
Let's see what happens here.